What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the reoccurring theme throughout this past offseason is that the Detroit Lions need to put all their capital into the defensive line. They need to add defensive tackles, defensive ends. They need to add all these guys to the defensive line to help bolster this pass rush that was very, very lacking last season. And even today, on August 12th or whatever it is, fans are still not super confident in our defensive line because, they don't feel the Detroit Lions did enough and brought in enough players to fix the pass rush. Now, that is what we're going to be talking about today is, do the Detroit Lions actually need to add anybody else? Do they need more players on this defensive line in order to have a good pass rush next season? Now, before we do get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes 2 seconds out of every day to make mine, and I'd be very, very appreciative to everybody that chooses to do so. But with that being said, let's get into talking about this defensive line and whether or not they actually need another piece in order to be successful in 2020. Now, obviously, I know where this argument is coming from, right? The Detroit Lions last year, their pass rush was really, really bad, as they were tied for 31st in the NFL with only 28 sacks last season, which is very, very bad. Obviously, being 31st in the NFL or tied for it, it's not a good thing, and you definitely need to improve if you want to be a better football team. Now, in this offseason, the Detroit Lions did put an emphasis on their front seven and their pass rush, as they brought in guys like Jamie Collins, Nick Williams, Danny Shelton, Reggie Ragland, Elijah Lee, John Pennicini, Jayshon Cornell, and Julian Okwara, as well as they have two guys returning from injured reserves in Deshaun Hand and Austin Bryant. Now, it wasn't all smooth sailing, as the Detroit Lions also lost a few guys. They lost guys like Devon Kennard, who was our most efficient pass rusher last season, or tied for it. We lost Damon Harrison, we lost A'Shawn Robinson, and Mike Daniels to free agency. Now, if you look at that, right, additions versus losses, the Detroit Lions added a lot more guys than they lost this season, but can those guys produce, and can those guys play better than the guys that we lost and had here last season? Now, before we can talk about whether the Detroit Lions can fix their pass rush, first we got to identify what went wrong last season. What happened to the Detroit Lions defensive line that made it so, or what happened to their front seven that made it so that their pass rush was so bad? What were the contributing factors to, this lackluster pass rush? And then we can look at, did the Detroit Lions do enough to fix it? The first contributing factor is that Trey Flowers was not healthy for the first third of the season. From weeks 1 to 6, he really wasn't the same player, and it's because he had shoulder surgery in the offseason. In the 2019 offseason, he had shoulder surgery to fix something in his shoulder, and, he really wasn't the same. And I know it wasn't an injury, but when you have surgery like that, sometimes it just takes a little while to heal up. It takes a little while for it to feel right again and to get all of your strength back in that muscle or, in that spot where you had surgery. And that was definitely the case with Trey Flowers. Now, Trey Flowers in the first 6 or 7 matchups, and Trey Flowers in the first 6 matchups was not very good. Well, he wasn't good. He wasn't the impact pass rusher that we paid him to be. He wasn't getting sacks. He wasn't getting a ton of pressures. He wasn't really being the dominant pass rusher that we paid him to be. And then week 7 rolled around and the New York Giants came to town, and Trey Flowers got 2 sacks on the New York Giants. And he looked really, really good. He looked like his shoulder was really healed and he was ready to be that great pass rusher. But, 2 sacks in 1 game after not really doing anything the first couple of games is, could be a fluke. And the next game he got a sack. And then the next game he got a sack. And then he had a game off, didn't really get a sack, still had some pressures, didn't get a sack. And then the game after that he got another sack. And then another sack. And it just kept stacking on top of each other. And then all of a sudden, he went from having 1 sack through 6 weeks to having 6 sacks in the next 5 weeks. He all of a sudden, like you saw from week 6 to 7, something flipped. The switch flipped in his head, or the muscle healed just right between that 6th and 7th week, where he really turned it on against the New York Giants and never looked back. The pass rush improved after week 6. From week 7 and beyond, the pass rush was better because Trey Flowers was out there making an impact. He was out there being the dominant pass rusher that we needed him to be, and that really, really helped. However, him being injured throughout that first 6 weeks really, really hurt the Detroit Lions in the long run, because the pass rush wasn't able to get going the first 6 weeks, and then by that 7th week, players were starting to get injured, players were starting to get hurt, and they were kind of starting to give up a little bit on the pass rush because they just weren't getting there. Now moving on to the second contributing factor to this lackluster pass rush is Damon Snacks Harrison was playing atrocious last year. I don't think he wanted to be here. I don't think he was 100% healthy, but I really think the big contributing factor was he did not want to be in Detroit. After the Detroit Lions released him, he came out publicly and said, I didn't want to be in Detroit when they traded for me. I tried everything in my power not to go there, I didn't want to be in Detroit. I really didn't want to be coached by Matt Patricia. So, if your guy doesn't want to be here, he's not going to give you his best, and he's not going to play at his best level like he should be. And we saw that huge drop off from 2018 to 2019. In 2018, even if he didn't want to be here, he put up with Matt Patricia and he did his best. In 2018, he got 81 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits, and 3.5 sacks. And in 2019, his production dipped tremendously. He only had 49 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. So we saw the regression. We saw him go from an elite defensive tackle to a average at best defensive tackle, and our defense looked so much worse. At the end of the 2018 season, our defense was popping. It was looking really good. It was looking like a top 15, top 10 unit in the NFL, and then we were coming into next season with the new offensive coordinator saying, dang, this defense is about to be popping, this offense is about to be great, we're going to be a great football team. And then Snacks didn't play well, and the rest of the defensive line didn't play well, and the team looked really, really bad, especially on the defensive side. We gave up a lot of points, we gave up a lot of fourth quarter leads, and we lost a lot of football games. And I think Snacks was the biggest reason for that. He did not play well, and even though he directly wasn't getting a whole lot of sacks either season, he opened up holes for the linebackers. In 2018, Jared Davis had 6 sacks because Snacks Harrison was taking on those double teams, because Snacks Harrison was giving him free shots at the linebacker, or free shots at the quarterback. Jared Davis benefited. All the linebackers benefited from Snacks playing at that elite level. And even if Snacks on the stat sheet wasn't looking great as far as sack production, he produced, he commanded those double teams and gave other players so many more opportunities to go get the quarterback. And with his play dropping, the entire defensive line play dropped because he wasn't forcing those double teams. He wasn't giving all those players the same opportunities to get those sacks and get those pressures. Now, the next thing is Mike Daniels. We brought in Mike Daniels late in the free agent process to really complete this defensive line, and unfortunately for him, he did get hurt. He had a very injured season. He was struggling with injuries throughout the entire season. In the 2019 season, he only played in 9 games, had 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and a single sack. And, honestly, with him, I think it was more of a playtime thing than it was his talent level drop. I actually think when he played in the games, he played all right. I don't think he really, I don't think he played up to that $9 million a year standard, but I don't think he was that bad when he was playing. But I do think that the lack of playing time, the, injury bug hitting him over and over and over again really, really affected his season, and that's why he did not play very well. And then, along with that injury, we had so many more, with Deshaun Handley playing in 3 games with an injury. Austin Bryant only played in, I believe, 4 games because of hip and shoulder injuries. We had a lot of injuries on this defensive line last year, and I think, they were healthy in the beginning of the season, most of them were, but Trey Flowers wasn't playing well. And then when Trey Flowers started playing well, everybody started getting injured and had to, leave. So Trey Flowers was the only guy out there getting any pass rush for the Detroit Lions. Obviously it sucks. We just went over what the problems were on our team, but the Detroit Lions played a lot of good offensive lines as far as sacks allowed last year. In the 2019 season, the Detroit Lions played the Dallas Cowboys, who allowed the second least sacks in the NFL. They played the Kansas City Chiefs, who were tied for the 3rd fewest sacks allowed. They played the Minnesota Vikings, who were tied for the 5th most sacks allowed. The Oakland Raiders, who had the 8th least sacks allowed. They played the Chargers, who allowed the 11th fewest. The Green Bay Packers, who allowed the 12th fewest, and the Philadelphia Eagles, who allowed the 14th fewest sacks in the NFL. So 7 teams that the Detroit Lions played were top 14 in sacks allowed. They played a lot of really good offensive lines, or they played a lot of offensive lines and offenses that did not allow a lot of sacks on the quarterback. So, yes, part of it was the talent on the Detroit Lions not playing up to standard, but part of it was we played a lot of really, really good offensive lines this year, or a lot of run-heavy teams that didn't allow the quarterback to get hit a lot. So I think part of the production standpoint is that, we played all these offensive lines that didn't allow a lot of sacks, so how are we supposed to get sacks on all these great offensive lines? And how are we expected to be a great pass rush with all these with all these offensive lines playing great, and with the struggles our defensive line had? Now, with that being said, did the Detroit Lions do enough to fix it? Did the Detroit Lions do enough in this offseason to fix the pass rush? I think they did. I think they brought in a lot of guys to help. Now, first off, obviously, Trey Flowers is going to be healthy. He did not have a surgery this offseason. He did not have any setbacks this offseason, and he is going to come in 100% healthy. He's going to hit the ground running like we expected him to do in 2019, and don't be surprised if Trey Flowers gets a sack or 2 in week 1 against Chicago. Don't be surprised, because he's going to hit the ground running. He's going to hit the ground hungry and ready to go get the quarterback, and I would not be surprised if he takes off right away and gets a few sacks in week 1. Now, along with that, Deshaun Hand and Hunter Bryant should be healthy this season. Deshaun Hand is coming off a game coming off a season where he only played in 3 games. He should be fully healthy. He had a full offseason to heal. No preseason. Obviously we have training camp still, but no preseason. He's not going to be playing in a lot of games. And if something doesn't feel right, he can always take a little bit of time off to let it heal again. Now, he should be fully healthy by the time the season starts. And Deshaun Hand, when he is playing, we saw in his rookie season, the Detroit Lions pass rush looks better when he's playing because he is a dominant force. He is so good when he is playing for the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions, their defensive line looks like a whole different team when Deshaun Hand is out there playing because he is a force in the NFL. The same thing goes for Austin Bryant as far as health. He did not play last year because of shoulder and hip injuries. However, he should be coming in fully healthy. Now, he is right now on the physically unable to perform list for an unknown reason that has not been disclosed. But by the beginning of the season, he should be healthy. He should be ready to go for the Detroit Lions. And unlike Deshaun Hand, we haven't really seen him play a whole lot for the Detroit Lions. But, in college, he was a ferocious pass rusher. He was so good in college. And I think that he's going to be a great pass rusher for the Detroit Lions in the future. He just has to stay healthy. So bringing back 2 very, very talented young defensive linemen on this defensive line that we did not have last year is going to help our pass rush improve. Now, we brought in Danny Shelton, who I guarantee is going to play better than Snacks. He's going to be like Snacks in 2018, where he's opening up holes. He's giving linebackers free shots at the quarterback. He's allowing his edge rushers to get one-on-one opportunities and win those one-on-ones. He's going to be the guy, the anchor in the middle that allows this whole defensive line to be more aggressive, to play better, and he's going to allow the linebackers to blitz more because they're going to get through so much faster and get to this quarterback that much more. So I think Danny Shelton, why he's going to have that Snacks role where he's not going to get a whole lot of sacks. He might get 3 sacks in the season, which doesn't sound good, but he's going to open up so many holes for the linebackers. He's going to open up so many opportunities for the other pass rushers on the defensive line to get opportunities and to win those opportunities, that if he's playing anywhere near where Snacks did in 2018, this pass rush is going to be, it's not even going to look the same. It's going to be so much better that we're not even going to recognize this defensive line next season. And then the Detroit Lions brought in a couple guys that, had really good sack seasons last year. They brought in Jamie Collins, who had 7 sacks in 2019. They brought in Nick Williams, who had 6 sacks in 2019. They brought in Reggie Ragland, who had 2 sacks in 2019. They brought in guys that had sack production last year to help, obviously, to help the pass rush and help us get more sacks on the quarterback. Jamie Collins is going to get sacks this season. Jared Davis, I believe, even though he's not new, is going to get sacks this season. Nick Williams should, he had a breakout season last year. If he stays at that form, he should get sacks this season. Reggie Ragland, if he makes the team, should get sacks this season, as well as Trey Flowers should be healthy coming and getting all these sacks. Danny Shelton should be opening up all the holes for these linebackers. Julian Okwara coming in should take over for Devon Kennard and be great. Deshaun Hand, Austin Bryant are all coming back to help this pass rush. So why on the surface it doesn't look like the Detroit Lions signed a lot of defensive linemen? They're also having 2 guys come back from injuries. They're also having a guy come in fully healthy for the season. They brought in a brand new defensive tackle that's going to outplay what we had last year. The Detroit Lions did put a lot of capital into this defensive line, and they, I think it will be much, much better this season. Now, obviously, earlier we talked about the great offensive lines we played last year. This year, we play a lot of bad offensive lines, to be honest. We play the Carolina Panthers, who allowed 58 sacks last season, which was tied for the most in the NFL. We played the Titans, who allowed 56 sacks. That was 3rd most in the NFL. We played the Atlanta Falcons, who gave up 50 sacks, which was tied for 5th. In the 5th most in the NFL. We play the Arizona Cardinals, who gave up 50 sacks, which was tied for 5th in the NFL. We play the Washington Football Team, who gave up 50 sacks and was tied for 5th in the NFL. We play the Houston Texans, who gave up 49 sacks and were the 8th most in the NFL. So 6 of the teams we play this year, 6 out of the 16 teams that we play were bottom 8 in sacks allowed. They gave up the most sacks. 6 of the teams we play this season were top 8 in sacks allowed. So, when we played all these great offensive lines last year, we're playing a lot of bad offensive lines this year. So, we're going to be able to get off on these offensive lines. And I know some of them added pieces, but a lot of them are rookies. A lot of these offensive lines added rookies to the team. And rookies are going to struggle against Trey Flowers. Rookies are going to struggle against this veteran defensive line. And they're going to struggle in the NFL, as all rookies tend to do. So I'm not too worried about the rookies that they brought in. And honestly, none of these offensive lines, to me, really upgraded enough to say that they're going to make a huge jump from worst to first in the offensive line. None of them are going to, give up 20 fewer sacks this season. They're all, in my opinion, going to stay around the same spot. And the defensive line for the Detroit Lions is going to key off on that. And they are going to get more sacks this season because the defensive line play is going to be better and the quality of opponent is going to get worse. So it's like, the Detroit Lions, the opponent was here last year and their pass rush was here. It's just going to completely flip this time. Like, it's going to be so much better. The defensive line play is going to be better. The opponents we're playing are going to be worse. And the Detroit Lions pass rush is going to look better next season. I guarantee it. And we didn't even get to the rookies early. We talked about Julian Okwara a little bit. He has arguably the highest ceiling on the defense right now. He's so athletically gifted that when he takes over for Devon Kennard, don't be surprised if he gets 10 sacks this season. Don't be surprised if he gets 7 to 10 sacks and is in contention for Rookie of the Year like we saw with some other guys last year. And then we got John Pennicini, who we brought in as a late round pick. He's a fantastic run stopper. He's going to have a role on this team. He's going to play with the starters for a little bit when we need to stop the run. When it's 3rd and 1, when it's 4th and 1, and the Detroit Lions need a key stop on the defensive side. When the Detroit Lions need to stop the short yardage game, they're going to bring in John Pennicini because him and Danny Shelton are going to shut down this run game 11 times out of 10. If you run on the Detroit Lions 10 times, the Detroit Lions are going to stop you 11. It's going to be that good. The run defense this year is going to be so good. And, when you can't run the ball, you got to pass. And the more you pass, the more susceptible your quarterback is to getting hit and getting, giving the defensive line more of an opportunity to get these sacks. And then, I think we have a secret weapon in Jashon Cornell. I didn't know about him when we got drafted, but the more I look at him, the more I do research, the more I love this pick in the 7th round. 7th round pick, if he fails, who cares? But if he lives up to what his potential could be, this is going to be the steal of the draft. Now, Jashon Cornell was rated the 4th highest defensive tackle in the NFL draft this season, only behind Derrick Brown, who was selected by the Carolina Panthers in a top 10 position. He was only behind Derrick Brown and 2 other guys. Derrick Brown was the 8th pick in the NFL draft, I believe. He was drafted in the top 10 by the Carolina Panthers. And Jashon Cornell was only 0.2 points behind him in Pro Football Focus grading. Pro Football Focus gave him a 90.2 grade last season, and that was largely due to his pass rush that was graded at a 86.1. So this Detroit Lions defensive line is going to play much better. Their front 7 is going to play much better next season, and the pass rush is going to get better. The pass rush is going to get back to a great place in the 2020 season. Now, if the Detroit Lions were to sign somebody else on the defensive line, I wouldn't be mad because talented depth is tough to come across in the NFL, and if they found a guy like Timmy Jernigan, or if they found a really talented defensive tackle to be depth, I wouldn't be mad because depth, competition, and talented depth is tough to find in the NFL. But I do not think the Detroit Lions need another defensive tackle. Now, that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. A little bit of a longer one today, but I really wanted to go over this because a lot of Detroit Lions fans think we need more defensive line help, and I don't think it's necessary in order for the Detroit Lions defensive line and pass rush to have success next year. Let me know what you guys think, though. Do you think we need more defensive line help in order to be successful? Or do you think that with all the returning players coming back healthy and the additions in free agency, the Detroit Lions are set and ready to go for the 2020 season? Let me know that down in the comments below. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, I'll obviously make a video letting everybody know. But until then, that is all I got. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. And I will see all of you tomorrow with more Detroit Lions content. Bye, guys.